Hello guys, welcome to Storytimes. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise, even more interesting stories. I still remember the scent of that place. The warm jasmine from the spa hallway. The way the sun painted gold across the water each morning. The private balcony where she whispered promises into my ear that now feel like some bad joke. That resort wasn't just a vacation. It was the first chapter of what was supposed to be forever. And yet, 3 years later, she booked the same room, the same view. But this time, she wasn't alone. And she wasn't with me. When I saw the reservation under her name, I nearly laughed. Same suite, same dates, but a different man. Her boss. The one she swore was just a mentor. Someone who believed in her growth. I always wondered why mentorship needed that many business dinners and unsent calendar invites. But this? Taking him there? To the place she once cried tears of joy in? That was her final act. And mine was about to begin. It all started the morning I saw the email. I still had access to our old joint travel account. She must have forgotten, or maybe she didn't care anymore. There it was, clear as daylight. A 5-night reservation for 2 under her name. A bottle of sparkling wine pre-ordered. Sunset couples massage. And the line that flipped a switch in my chest. Anniversary set up. Anniversary? With him? I didn't scream, didn't throw my phone across the room. I just sat there, staring at that screen, letting it burn itself into memory. Then I picked up the phone and called the resort. I told them I was working on a surprise gift for a couple staying there. I gave the room number. I asked, casually, if they had camera access for guest safety. They did. And, with a little technical help, I had a live feed before the couple even checked in. The first night, I didn't sleep. I watched the footage from my apartment in silence. She walked in first, heels clicking, laughing. Then him, her mentor. I watched her toss her bag on the same bed we once collapsed on after saying, I do. I watched her open that same balcony door where she once cried about how lucky she was to marry me. She poured wine for him, sat in his lap, whispered in his ear, and I had just watched. I wasn't angry, not in the way people imagine rage. It was quieter than that, heavier, like every frame just pushed my chest deeper into the floor. But I kept watching, not because I needed proof, but because I needed fuel. The next day, I made 2 more calls. The first was to a woman named Camille. She used to work under my wife, my ex-wife, I guess I should say. Camille was sharp, creative, and dangerously ambitious. She'd been fired a year ago. My wife told me she was too emotional and difficult to manage. In truth, Camille had dared to disagree during a pitch meeting, and that was enough. But I remember Camille telling me, the night she got fired, one day, I'll have a front row seat when karma shows up. I figured it was time to offer her a front row seat and a little more. The second call was to a woman I never thought I'd speak to, the boss wife. Her name was Veronica. She was polite but cold at first. Suspicious. I told her I had something she deserved to see, and I wasn't asking for revenge. I was asking for truth. She showed up that same night. I met her in the lounge. I handed her a tablet and pressed play. At first, she held it like it might bite her. Then the color drained from her face. She sat through the whole recording without blinking. When it ended, she looked up and said, "So, this is where they come to laugh behind our backs." I nodded once. She placed the tablet down and asked, "What do you want me to do?" I smiled. "Just check them out." The plan was simple. No screaming. No fights. No scenes. Just precision. Just timing. I booked a room at the same resort. Same day they were scheduled to leave. I brought Camille with me. Not romantically, but for symmetry. My ex had humiliated Camille once. Now Camille would be there for the return show. I stayed in the background for most of the trip, carefully avoiding overlap. I didn't need to confront her mid-stay. Let her enjoy every fake smile, every glass of champagne. I wanted it all to collapse at the finish line. And that moment, that final checkout morning, it came fast. Too fast. But I was ready. The morning of their checkout, the resort looked just like I remembered. Warm air brushing through the open lounge, palm shadows stretching across the marble floor, and that same low hum of soft jazz playing from the ceiling speakers. Everything was still beautiful, still perfect, and completely hollow. I stood just out of view near the cafe corner, where the light from the terrace didn't quite reach, sipping coffee like any other guest. Camille sat across from me, legs crossed, sunglasses on, pretending to scroll through her phone. But I knew her heart was racing. Mine was too, though not from nerves. From closure. From the weight of the silence before the fall. Down the hallway, I spotted them. My ex-wife in a white wrap dress and oversized sunglasses, laughing with her head tilted back like she hadn't a care in the world. Her mentor trailed behind her, dragging a silver suitcase, looking pleased with himself. Arrogant. Smug. Like a man who thought he'd gotten away with something. They didn't see me. They didn't see Camille. But they did see the front desk, and the woman waiting behind it. Veronica stood poised, cool as stone, in a pale blue blazer and her hair tied back. Professional. Unshakable. She wasn't an actress, but in that moment, she played the role perfectly. My ex barely slowed down as she approached the counter, tossing her room card on the desk with a lazy smile. Checking out, she chirped. Name's Lauren. Veronica didn't flinch. She looked down, tapped a few keys, then said, of course. Room 416. One moment, please. Then she pulled a folded piece of paper from beneath the counter and laid it gently in front of them. What's this? Lauren asked, her smile faltering. An invoice, Veronica said calmly, and a message. Lauren unfolded the paper, eyes skimming across the top line before freezing. I knew the exact moment she registered it. Her fingers tensed. The color in her cheeks drained just a little. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Veronica leaned in slightly and said, You booked a romantic getaway with my husband, in the exact suite where he proposed to me 10 years ago. That hit like a slap in slow motion. The man beside Lauren, her boss, straightened, the muscles in his jaw twitching. Veronica, he started, but she held up a hand. Save it. You'll want to turn around. And they did. Slowly. Just as the concierge hit the button behind the desk, the screen above the reception counter flickered to life, drawing attention from nearby guests and staff. It started as a still image, room 416. Then the footage began. Soundless, but unmistakable. Lauren in lingerie. Her boss half-dressed. The timestamp in the corner made everything real. The laughter. The wine. The kisses. The intimacy. Gasps rippled through the lobby. A couple sitting nearby turned to look. Someone's child asked their father, Is that a movie? But I wasn't watching the screen. I was watching them. Her mouth fell open. His hands balled into fists. Panic spread across both their faces like fire over dry leaves. Turn it off. Lauren shouted, her voice shaking now. This is illegal. This is harassment. But Veronica simply smiled. Actually, it's your betrayal that's the problem. I'm just the delivery girl. Then she stepped aside. That's when I moved. I walked forward slowly, letting her see me from the corner of her eye. At first, she didn't register it. Then her body stiffened like it had been hit with ice water. She turned fully, sunglasses slipping down her nose. What are you doing here? I smiled gently. Just wanted to revisit some memories. It's funny how smells, places, moments, they stick with you. Then I stepped aside too, revealing Camille standing behind me. Her arms folded. Her expression calm, but razor sharp. Lauren blinked like she couldn't process it. You brought her. Camille tilted her head. Oh, I'm just here for the show. You fired me for being too much. But looks like you were the one who couldn't manage boundaries. Lauren looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. Her boss, still silent, grabbed his suitcase and muttered something about calling his lawyer. Veronica tossed the room receipt at his feet. You should also call your board. HR tends to care about these things. That was when the manager of the resort stepped forward, gently turning off the footage on the screen. For the privacy of our guests, I'm going to ask everyone involved to exit the premises immediately. Veronica nodded. Gladly. I stood still, watching Lauren look at me one last time, eyes wide, throat tight, trying to find a single word that wouldn't sound pathetic. But I had no interest in hearing excuses. I'd heard them before. I turned back to Camille and held out my arm. She linked hers with mine, and we walked out into the sunlight together. Behind us, chaos unraveled. Voices rose. Arguments started. But all I heard was Camille laughing softly beside me. You know, she said, you could have sent an email. I shrugged. Sometimes it's better to let the past watch itself burn. We didn't speak much as we left the resort grounds. There wasn't a need. The silence between Camille and me wasn't awkward. It was shared understanding, the kind of silence that only comes after something final has been done. She glanced at me as we reached the edge of the property, her heels clicking quietly against the walkway. You all right? She asked. I didn't answer right away, because truthfully, I didn't know. Was I? I had waited for that moment, imagined it, rehearsed it, rewrote it in my mind so many times that when it finally played out, I wasn't sure what emotion I was supposed to feel. Victory? Relief? Closure? But none of those words felt right. What I felt was something colder, a kind of stillness. Like I'd been holding my breath for months, and only now I realized I'd forgotten how to exhale. Camille drove us back to the city. The tower ride through winding roads and scattered coastal towns gave me time to stare out the window and try to remember when exactly everything started to go wrong. Was it during that first work retreat she refused to let me attend? Or maybe when she started changing passwords on devices we once shared? It's funny how you don't see the storm when you're inside the eye of it. Everything is calm until it isn't. I remembered the night she came home late and blamed traffic, even though I knew the freeway had been clear. I remembered the strange perfume on her coat. Not hers, not mine, but I hadn't asked. I'd swallowed every red flag, convinced myself that love meant trust. But it wasn't love anymore, and trust was already dead by then. Camille pulled into my driveway and parked in silence. We sat there for a moment, both of us knowing this wasn't the end of anything really. It was just a line drawn in the ash of what used to be. "You didn't have to involve me," she said softly, her fingers tracing the steering wheel. "But thank you for letting me be there." I nodded, finally finding some words. "You deserve to see her face." Camille smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She used to tell me I'd never be taken seriously, that I was too impulsive, too emotional. She looked out at the sky. But today, she couldn't even keep her legs under her when the truth came out. That made me laugh, quietly, not with joy, but with exhaustion. "She was wrong about you," I said. "She was wrong about a lot of things." After she left, I sat alone in my house, the house we once shared. It was too quiet, too clean. The smell of lavender still lingered faintly in the hallway, a scent she used to love. I opened the closet and saw that some of her clothes still hung there, like ghosts refusing to leave. I thought about boxing them up, about finally clearing the last traces of her from my life. But instead, I closed the door and walked into the kitchen. I needed space first. Space to feel something other than the echo of betrayal. I poured myself a drink, sat by the window, and replayed the moment at the front desk again in my head. Her stunned face. The helpless way she tried to explain what couldn't be explained. The irony that she once accused me of being too passive, too forgiving. She thought I would always just take it, endure it, let her rewrite the truth. But today, she saw who I really was when I was done being the quiet one. I didn't tell anyone else what happened, not at first. People would find out eventually. Stories like this have a way of surfacing, especially when they involve the downfall of people who thought they were untouchable. Her boss would have questions to answer. His wife? I had no doubt she was already lawyering up. And Lauren? Well, she'd have to live in the wreckage she created. Alone. I didn't block her number. I wanted her to try and reach out. I wanted her to look at her phone every day and wonder if I'd pick up. I didn't. But she did call twice that night. No message. Just silence on the call log. Then a third time. Then a text. "Can we talk?" I stared at it. For a long time. Then I typed one word and hit send. No. She didn't respond after that. The next few days were strange. Quiet. But not peaceful. My phone buzzed less. I stopped refreshing social media. I didn't care what she posted, or if she was trying to play victim to her circle of curated friends. What mattered was that the lie was no longer hers to control. The footage had done what words never could. It spoke louder than any confrontation, any letter, any tear-filled apology. I knew what I saw, and I made sure others did too. Then came the letter. It arrived in the mailbox, handwritten. Not a text, not an email, an actual letter. The envelope was unmarked, the handwriting unmistakable. Inside, for pages of her thoughts, her version of the story, how she never meant for things to get that far, how she felt confused and unseen. She said the resort meant something to her too, that returning there wasn't just about the man. It was about trying to remember who she used to be. She called the footage a violation, but admitted it showed what couldn't be defended. She asked me to forgive her, not to take her back, but just to free myself from the anger. I folded the letter in half and slid it back into the envelope. I didn't shred it. I didn't burn it. I just left it in the drawer with the old photos, old ticket stubs, and other artifacts from a version of life that didn't exist anymore. Forgiveness isn't something you grant for the other person. It's something you choose for yourself. And maybe, one day I would. But not yet. Not while the ashes were still warm. That night, I met Camille for dinner. Nothing romantic. Just a quiet corner of a small bistro, a bottle of red, 2 plates of pasta, and 2 people who had been dismissed by the same woman, and who, somehow, found each other at the end of it. She raised her glass halfway through the meal. "To the wreckage," she said with a wry smile. I raised mine. And the rebuild. Days turned into weeks, and life started moving again. Not fast. Not with any grand breakthroughs or sudden happiness, but forward. And after everything that had happened, that was enough. I didn't go back to the places we used to visit. I didn't reach for the playlist she once played while cooking dinner barefoot in our kitchen. I stopped trying to connect the past to the present. Some people call it healing, others call it detachment. For me, it was survival. Some days were heavier than others. I'd walk past a coffee shop and get ambushed by a memory, her smile across a small table, her hand on mine, while we planned what our lives would look like 10 years down the road. But now, I looked through those memories like glass. I didn't feel them anymore. They couldn't reach me. I heard through a mutual friend that her boss stepped down from his company after a quiet internal investigation. Apparently, Veronica didn't just walk away from the front desk that day. She walked straight to her lawyer. And she didn't hold back. There were consequences. Financial ones. Reputation ones. I didn't celebrate it. But I didn't feel sorry either. Actions have weight. And some people need to finally feel how heavy they've become. As for Lauren, she moved to a new apartment on the other side of the city. Tried starting a freelance consulting business, rebranding herself as someone who helps women reclaim their power. The irony would have been hilarious if it weren't so pathetic. She wrote blog posts now, ones about healing, trauma, growth. All buzzwords. No accountability. Her version of the story didn't include the footage. Or Veronica. Or me. Just vague statements about being betrayed by trust and learning through heartbreak. The projection was almost impressive. I never commented. Never corrected. Some stories don't need to be defended. They just need to be outlived. But I kept the footage. Not out of spite. Not to use as a weapon. Just as a reminder. Of how blind I was. Of how quickly people can justify the worst versions of themselves. And of how calm revenge can be when done right. Because that's the thing no one tells you. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to come with slamming doors or screaming in lobbies. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is just presence. Standing there when they thought you wouldn't. Letting them see what they've become in the reflection of your silence. That's what broke her. Not the footage. Not the wife. Not the screen above the desk. It was the moment she turned around and saw me calm, quiet, unbothered. And not alone. Camille and I didn't become a couple, though people assumed we did. What we had was something else. Something stranger and more comforting. We understood the fracture. The feeling of being dismissed. We shared that space between pain and power, and we respected it in each other. She moved to Chicago a few months later, got hired by a new agency that actually valued her voice. Before she left, we sat on my porch one last time, sipping coffee and watching the rain slide down the railing. "Promise me one thing," she said. "Don't let this make you bitter. Don't let her be the last chapter." I looked at her and nodded, because I wanted to believe I could do that. That I could start again. That I wasn't permanently damaged goods. And in time, maybe I did believe it. There was one moment that stayed with me long after she left. A quiet Tuesday morning. I'd gone back to that resort, not to stay, just to walk the perimeter, to see it one last time without the wait. The jasmine still bloomed at the entrance. The same sun painted the pool in gold. But it didn't hurt anymore. It didn't haunt me. It was just a place. A building made of stone and glass and memory. I stood by the railing where she once told me she'd never love anyone the way she loved me. And I realized that maybe she hadn't lied. Maybe she meant it in that moment. But moments fade. People change. And promises made in paradise don't always survive the real world. Before I left, I walked up to the front desk. A different woman was working, young, polite, no idea who I was. She asked if I needed anything. I shook my head and smiled. "Just passing through," I said. "Beautiful place." And then I left. No fire. No anger. Just peace. The kind you earn after you finally stopped bleeding from wounds no one else could see. Now, when people ask me if I'd ever take her back, I just smile. Because they don't get it. It's not about taking someone back. It's about never letting yourself go missing again inside someone else's chaos. I don't miss her. I miss the man I thought I was when I was with her. But that man's not gone. He's just learning to stand taller now. Straighter. Wiser. So, if you're listening to this wondering whether to walk away, whether to act, whether to stand up for the truth you know but don't want to face, this is your sign. You don't need to yell. You don't need to break anything. Just choose silence with a purpose. And when the time is right, let them walk into their own consequences. Let them see what they lost. Let the truth be louder than revenge. And if you've ever been where I've been, blindsided, broken, betrayed, know this. You're not for loving hard. You're not foolish for believing in someone. But you are powerful the moment you stop explaining yourself and start showing who you really are. Thanks for staying with me through this story. If it resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Tell me what you would have done. Or just say hi. You never know who else might need to hear your voice. Until next time, choose peace. And never forget the power of quiet revenge.